Alpha Team, this is Commander Vance. Transmission compromised. Static crackle. Corridors leaking. Cold water mixing with blood. Smells bad. Rot. Dot. Old. Old. Like a corpse in the fridge. Breath hitches, lights are flickering. Strobing. Every other second. Humming like a dying fridge. Distant, wet thud. Not a zombie. Not anymore. More static. Mendoza's down. Left side of her neck, gone. Sound of frantic scrambling. No time to mourn. We're moving. East, corridor. Bansa, the bottom the antarestate in that. Banidang dog, literally by zero, to bar. Sound of boots on wet metal, floors vibrating. Heavy, like something's under us. Sudden, sharp scrape, claws on the ceiling. Not the usual shamble. Voice tightens, they're learning. Sound of rapid gunfire, then a choked gasp. Zombies. Always the zombies. But the other ones, they're faster. Another scrape, closer, liquor. It dropped from the vents. Guttural snarl, not a vent. Panic, it's everywhere. Gunfire cuts off abruptly. Mendoza's gone. Voice drops, raw, not dead. Changing. Sound of a wet, tearing noise. They're not dead. They're changing. Static intensifies. East conduit. We need the primary reactor override. Sound of distant, guttural growls. If we can trigger the emergency purge. Maybe burn the spores. Sound of a heavy door groaning shut. But the reactor's behind the main lab. Voice cracks, and the main lab's full of them. Sound of a heavy impact against metal. They're pounding. Deep breath. We're pinned in the service tunnel. Sound of dripping water, then a low, wet growl. 3 heads. Cerberus style. Sound of a single sharp gunshot. 1 down. Another growl. Closer. 2 left. Sound of a heavy, dragging step. Hunter. It's here. A voice rises. Move. Move. Sound of frantic running. Sound of a door slamming shut. Locked. Dolt. Sound of heavy breathing. We're not getting out this way. Sound of a low, resonant hum from deeper in the facility. The purge system. It's active. Sound of a distant, high-pitched alarm. But the override's behind the main lab. Sound of a sharp, metallic clang. They're coming through the bulkhead. Sound of a weapon being reloaded. Not enough time. Sound of a sudden, violent screech of tearing metal. It's not a hunter. Sound of a deep guttural roar. Liquor. Sound of a choked scream. Riley. Sound of a wet, tearing sound. Gone. Voice barely a whisper. They're everywhere. The air's thick. Humid D. Like a swamp. Sound of dripping water. Heavy footsteps. Footsteps. Too many. Sound of a low, guttural hiss. It's not just the creatures. Sound of a sudden, sharp intake of breath. The facility's alive. It's feeding on the spores. Sound of a distant, deep vibration. The floor's shaking. Sound of a heavy door groaning. They're coming. Sound of rapid, desperate typing. Override code. Sound of a single sharp key press. There. Sound of a heavy mechanical whir. Reactors starting. Sound of a deep, resonant thrum vibrating through the floor. It's working. Sound of a high-pitched alarm. But the purge. It's not clean. Sound of a loud, wet crack. Something's bursting. Sound of a low, guttural growl. They're breaking through. Sound of a single, desperate shot. No time. Voice rises, strained. If you hear this, extraction team. Sound of heavy, Rhythmic pounding on metal. Check the east conduit. Sound of a distant, deep roar. The purge is overloading. Sound of a sudden, sharp crack. The main lab's collapsing. Sound of a final, desperate breath. Tell them. Sound of a heavy, wet impact. Tell them. Sound of a final, choked gasp. We tried. Sound of a single, sustained, high-pitched electronic screech.